Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe and doing well. Now, today's true crime story epitomizes two very popular African proverbs. The first proverb says that stop being afraid of the ghost and start fearing the human being next to you. And the second proverb says that if an insect is going to bite you, more often than not, that insect will be biting you from your own attire or from your own cloth. This is a true crime story of an architect who has blended into the society and is very popular, but would end up killing three people at least. That's what has been tied directly to him. Three young teenagers, and butchering them up, refrigerating them or freezing them in his home, and then coming back to join the family to go and search for them. Yeah, it's that twisted. It's a case that is still ongoing and is coming to you from Ghana, West Africa, specifically Abysim in the Brong Ahafo region. If you are ready for this true crime story, just buckle up and let's go. This case is one of the cases that sent shivers down my spine as the case broke and eventually unfolded because it involved the murder and butchering of children. Anytime a murder involves a child, it hits differently. It hits you harder and it shakes you to the core. Not to talk of the fact that it wasn't just one kid, but three kids as at now. And it involves a man by name Richard Appiah. So the date is August 2021, and investigations had started into some missing guys or missing kids who had not yet reported home at various timelines, and their families had gotten worried. Now, Richard Appiah Jemfi is a Sunyani-based professional architect, and he would end up being arrested by the Ghana police in the Sunyani municipality because investigations had now been traced to him at a point. Now, following his arrest, authorities decided to go and then conduct further checks. And they discovered three decapitated human heads stashed in his refrigerator when they decided to go and search his room. Now, this case, like I said, is still ongoing, so a verdict has not yet been passed by the court. I'm not pronouncing him guilty, I'm just reporting the story as has been unfolded. And the question is, it's your room, it's your refrigerator. How come you have three heads or three human heads in your refrigerator and you are going about life like there's nothing to it? I just don't get it. Imagine you are him. You have to get a bottle of water or you have to get a canned beer or a fruit juice from your refrigerator. You open it, you have three skulls or three heads looking at you in the face, and you take whatever you are looking for, you drink or you sip it, and you put it back in, you close your fridge, and you are good. Go and sit down, you watch TV. Life is going on. I don't understand how somebody will be going through life like that, like there's nothing at stake. But this is what was going on in his room. Now, according to sources, Richard was said to have lured one of his victims, who was just 13 years, into his room on the 20th of August 2021. He killed, or he's alleged to have killed him, chopped off his head, and kept it in his refrigerator, plus the other body parts of his other victims. So he dismembered them and he kept them neatly in poly bags, like how you would keep frozen chicken or animal parts in a cold store or in a freezer. Now, the father of one of the victims by name Mr. Thomas J, whose son is the one who was just 13 years old, revealed that the architect convinced his son by name Louis Ajeman Jr. from a football pitch in Sunyani, Abysim, into his room and then ended up murdering him. Now, the boy was a twin and he had gone to the park for football practice. As do most young people here in Ghana, everybody loves football, even the adults. So it's very common for young people to be seen going to football pitches just to have some fun, playing football with their friends, and also train with the hopes of becoming like some of their African football idols and even European football idols they see. So this was a young boy practicing towards his dream, probably. But little did he know on that fateful day that he was actually going to meet his doom at the hands of this guy. Now, Cheneboa is one of the friends of this young 13-year-old victim, and he indicated to his parents that he had seen him with Richard after they finished the training, because they were looking for this young boy and he couldn't be found, and nobody seemed to know where he was until this guy gave the tip-off. Now, when they contacted him, he categorically denied seeing the youngster. So Cheneboa stated further that the two were observed walking together in the afternoon, and this began to raise suspicions about Richard, because here is a witness who has said that he saw you in the company of this boy, and yet he was insisting that he had never even seen the boy. So suspicion moved on him, and one of his doors was locked when the mob decided to visit his home with the police. He explained that the keys to that room had gone missing, and as such, he was unable to open that door. Now, there's this thing about instinct. Some people say it's spiritual, some people say it's telepathic, some people say it's a psychological thing. But I think that instincts are a combination of all of that and even more, because somebody would have bought that excuse, but it didn't sit well with some of the people who had gone there to search his house. Because how come you are in a house and one room cannot be accessed, and your reason is that the key is missing? Then you should have it changed, have the locks changed so that you can access the room. And it seems like a convenient situation, such that we can't search that room when we are actually looking for a boy who is missing. So the crowd became enraged, and the parents became enraged as well. Now the parents collected a group of area guys to storm into that room, and when they broke the door, they discovered the lifeless body of Louis Ajiman Jr. lying prostrate in cold blood with his head cut off. It's like the house was an abattoir where human beings were the animals being killed and butchered. And I shudder to think how a human being lives in such a place, or even goes through life with these things hanging above his head. How do you do that? And how does it seem normal to you? He would later indicate that he started with the killing of dogs before he moved on to the killing of human beings. It seems like he was evolving. I don't know. It seems like he was evolving. But then, when this discovery was done, they decided to hand him over to the police officially. But before doing so, as is typical here in Ghana in some circumstances, they handed him a beating, a very good beating for that matter. Now, the cops took over the case and they uncovered human parts in a sack during their search. He kept 3 human skulls in his fridge, like I mentioned earlier, and this included that of the 13-year-old Louis Ajiman. He was also handed to the police of another command called the Abisim Police Command, because it looks like the crime was cutting across different towns. Now, all as this were going on, Richard was still in the grips of the police, and the case was evolving. The police knew for a fact that there were other things that they would still have to look into, and that it's likely other things will come up. Now, fast forward to the 24th of August 2021. The Criminal Investigation Department of the Ghana Police Service discovered a place where this suspect, Richard Appiah, had buried the intestines of one of the victims of the Abisim murder case. So like I said, they knew they had to dig further and they knew they would find more things if they did. So they did, and they did. Now, they issued a statement, and in the statement, they confirmed that they found the intestines and they were buried in a cocoa farm at Abisim. The police went on to exhume these intestines for pathological analysis and forensic examination. Additionally, 2 sharp cutlasses with bloodstains used by the suspect to commit the crime were also retrieved from the scene. Now, at this point, the IGP, that's the Inspector General of Police in Ghana at the time, directed the police counseling unit to provide families of the murdered persons in Abisim with trauma reduction therapy, counseling, and other psychological support. Exactly so, because even me, who never knew these victims, who didn't even know their families, I had goosebumps, I had shivers when this case first broke and it was unfolding. So I can't even begin to imagine what their family members were going through. And I think it's a step in the right direction. Just that I always see, despite all of this, the thing has already happened. And in as much as the therapy, the counseling, and psychological analysis are good, it still cannot restore them back to their original state when this crime had not occurred. It does some good, but the damage has already been done, truth be told. And it's so awful that in a society, somebody just gets up and decides to do this to a family and maim them like this. But that's what happened. Now, as all these were going on and the counseling was being administered, the police also visited some of the family members to commiserate with them. Now, it didn't end there. The police were still investigating alongside. And the circumstances surrounding the murders of the victims began to seem mind-boggling to the police and even the general public. And trust you me, like I said, I was one of the people in the general public. I was very, very surprised at this, and I was just wondering what was going on in the mind of this guy. Because he's just 28 years old and he had so far killed 3 people, dismembered them, and kept them in his fridge. I'm still waiting to find out the main reason why he decided to keep them in his fridge, whether it was that he was going to consume them or sell the parts or whatever. It's still not been clearly reported. Now, 2 of his victims were teenagers and they were essentially innocent, and it's so shocking the way he goes about it. He became their role model. He earned their trust, and so they would follow him everywhere he went. And so he generally takes them to his house because they are all football fans. So that was like what runs through. Now, the 3rd victim, Stephen Sapon, who was just 12 years old, was missing in his neighborhood for almost a week, and his father, Mr. Isiama Yeboah, had been searching for him with the suspect, Richard Appiah. This is where the 2 proverbs I gave you at the beginning of the video becomes relevant. The man's son, the man's 12-year-old son, has been missing for about a week, and this father is brokenhearted and he's searching for his son. In the company of who? In the company of Richard Appiah, the same person who has actually kidnapped his son, killed him, butchered him, and kept his dismembered parts in his own refrigerator. What a twist. So, if the proverb says that Stop being afraid of the ghost and be afraid of the human being. This is what it's referring to, because Richard Appiah turns out to be a friend of the family of the boy that he has killed, butchered, and kept in his refrigerator. So then the second proverb also becomes relevant, that if an insect is going to bite you, more often than not, it's in your attire or your clothing. That means that usually it's the people who are close to you who get the access to harm you. And that is what was playing out here. And as if that was not enough, Richard Yeboah approached this father of the boy he has killed and told him that he has a piece of land that he was selling. So if he was interested, he will sell it to him for 10,000 Ghana cedis. Now, the man was interested. So he sold the land to the man and he took 10,000 Ghana cedis from the father of the boy he has killed, who is still searching for his son. And he used that money to try to run away. How do you justify this in any world? How do you justify this in any dimension? The twisted mentality, the sadistic thinking. How are you able to live with yourself? Sometimes I wonder, do people like this have mirrors in their home? If they do, when they look into the mirror and they see themselves looking back at themselves, what thoughts come to mind? What questions do they ask themselves? Are they able to speak the truth to themselves? Because it still baffles me. Giving you this story, it still baffles me to date. It's been about 2 years now, almost, and it still baffles me. It's bad enough that you decide to kidnap this boy. It's bad enough that you are able to decapitate this child. It's even worse enough that you are able to chop this kid up and keep him in his refrigerator, and you see him every day and every time you access the refrigerator and its contents. But it just goes overboard even at this stage, and it goes beyond the moon when you decide to go and sell an asset to the boy's father, whom you are still searching for the boy with, and use that money to escape justice or to try to escape justice for what you have done. Leave your comments in the comment section on this. I don't know what to say, but this is what happened. The case is still in court, and I'm following up to see how the final verdict will be. But my heart goes out to the families of the victims. This is not easy. This is not easy at all. The gruesome manner in which their children were taken out, it's just so heavy to bear. And I pray that they have the strength to deal with it and move on, if even they can. I don't know. But hey, like I always say, keep an eye out and stay safe out there, especially when it comes to the people closer to you. Because if an insect is going to bite you, more often than not, it's going to be in your attire or in your clothing. And like the African proverb will also advise, stop being afraid of the ghost and start fearing the human being. Because it's the human being who has access to you and can harm you directly. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Hit the notifications button. Share the content, it's free. And thank you so much for bringing us closer to 1,000 subscribers every day. Let's try and hit the 1,000 subscribers before the end of May. I appreciate your support. Catch you another time.